Hey everyone, happy Thursday evening. The stream you were watching was James Hilger. He is in extreme northeast Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, very close to Coffeyville, on a tornado-warned storm. Has some pretty incredible structure, but it's starting to die out as it's getting a little bit north of the warm front. So let me show you what we've got. In fact, there it is. Tornado warning dropped because the storm really got a little north of the ingredients and the surface instability and all that stuff. So, but it's just a sign of spring right around the corner. So there you see the tornado warning that was in effect. There was a funnel cloud that was just to the north of Copan and near Caney. And so, anyways, that system showing a couple of supercells with some structure, with some pretty decent structure too. Got Wyatt, my weather intern, here as well. Wyatt, what did you think of those storm pictures, man?
Man, they're wicked. Definitely getting that resemblance of spring again.
Yeah.
And so
Some
beautiful
supercells,
structures. Yeah,
supercells
very
with that
nice.
mesocyclone. I could show you it. James Hilger sent me a photo here. Let's see if, yeah, of course I can't turn it sideways because Messenger doesn't do that. But there's a look at the mesocyclone. You can kind of see it. So definitely an elevated storm now as it gets north of the front. But that's not why you came here. You want to know what's happening with our storm potential. We do have storms possible overnight tonight. What's going on, Vance? How you doing, buddy? Yeah, storms are looking possible, but not exactly certain. This is kind of a tricky forecast again. And it was an interesting day with the clouds. You can see the clouds kind of clearing out and then picking back up and then clearing out and then picking back up. And still looking at that structure. It's definitely lost its structure now. That's supercell. So let's kind of break down what we've got. Look off to the west. You could see that eerie sky. It's a little bit ominous where you had total cloud cover at times. Other spots were totally clear. A lot of cloud cover in the river valley. And so let's break down those temperatures in the lower to middle 60s. But here's the severe weather risk. This is going to be changing in just about a few minutes. Honestly, we'll probably show the latest severe weather risk right before we end this Facebook Live because I got to do the 7 o'clock. So Kimberly's asking, what about Van Buren? There's going to be some storm potential, and we're going to break down that here in just a bit. But there's no doubt the storms that are to the northwest are stronger. There's better ingredients there. We just don't have the ingredients in Northwest Arkansas as much. So yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, Kimberly. You're wanting to know about tonight. So here's a look at the satellite and radar. I actually have to update this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the warm front. I'm going to lift it northward. I'm going to take this. I'm going to lift that northward. I'm going to take the dry line, move that northward. That is right about there, and then the front's right about there. So there's the very latest surface map. I will save that. That's kind of what it looks like. And that's why that storm went tornadic as it rode the warm front. Wind shear is pretty impressive. So there was no tornado confirmed, but there was a funnel cloud that was reported. And Brian Empfinger also had video of that as well. So the storms that are to the west are going to be making their way eastward. And that's probably going to be developing some storm activity, if you want to answer that real quick. We will. Yeah, we'll check it out. So there's going to be storms, but the models are really struggling with a focus in terms of where exactly the storm activity will be. Did you answer it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and talk to them. No, I'm not on the Facebook Live. Like, just tell them I'm doing a Facebook Live. Yeah. So, anyways, there's the storm activity that's to the west, but some of the models are saying that maybe this is going to lift northward a little more and kind of miss our area. So we'll take a look at some of the higher resolution models. This is the very latest HRRR. We'll look at the graph as well. Not a single one agrees. Okay, so there's a lot of uncertainty. First of all, the HRRR is already showing rain and storms in the river valley, and that's just not the case. We're not storming yet. As we go into the evening hours, that's when I think that energy does move in, and we get to see a little bit of rain and storm activity. But all those storms to the west, according to the HRRR, kind of lift northward. And then it's like, well, where's the storms for us? Well, there's more energy moving in. And while the models aren't perfect on this, there's definitely going to be a weakening trend. I think we might see some sort of adjustments on the day one convective outlook, but there's a look at the storm activity. Now, see the break. If this break truly does happen, then we might be a little warmer tomorrow afternoon, which will set the stage for more storms. But there's another piece of energy that comes in during the morning into the late morning. And now it shows very little over Northwest Arkansas. So there is absolutely no agreement, none, zero right now. And I'll show you what I mean. Even with the paintballs are all over the place. There's just absolutely no consistency. So here is the longer range model. And the reason that we're watching Friday afternoon closer is because there's going to be more ingredients. You can actually physically see the energy moving in. This is what's going to provide additional storms. This is where I think Friday afternoon into the evening is going to be the most likely time if we do see severe weather where the storms will be strongest. And a non-zero tornado threat does exist, especially in LaFleur and Scott County. But here's a look at trash from the HRRR. Again, it shows storms basically all morning. And because of the cloud cover and the rain keeping the temperatures down, which is a possibility, then these storms that develop, you can see how they kind of develop and blossom as that system makes its way eastward, will be a lot weaker. And then they'll make their way eastward and they'll evolve and become a little bit stronger. Now, I'll say this. I'll take this with a grain of salt because the models didn't have two supercells in southeast Kansas that were tornado warned. So, or should I say one supercell? It was really one. The other one
they're
was
merging
severe
together
warned.
now.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, but
Yeah.
they're definitely lifting north of the warm front. Still a lot of lightning. But so, yeah, there it is. Not much showing except for some storm activity, but it's all about the temperatures. Then the rain is going to linger into the early morning hours on Saturday before it starts to kick on out, and then Saturday afternoon's looking good. But let me show you the uncertainty here and the discrepancy, and this is where you got to try to figure out what the storm's going to be, and we'll look at some of the mesoscale too. But here's the 3-kilometer graph. All right, so that shows basically nothing. Then it shows the storms building up after midnight. That's what I kind of think is going to be most likely. After midnight is the storm chances are going to be popping up. But then it moves out again. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot for the morning commute tomorrow. Now keep in mind, I could come back here in about an hour. This could totally change on us. Here's a look at the 4-kilometer graph showing, again, some storm activity as that energy swings in. If those are severe, it'll mainly be quarter-size hail, and that's about it. Notice there's very little activity Friday morning, but then look at this. Like, what? Where's the storms? Now this is showing temperatures warming up a little bit more, and so now there's the storm activity. Now those are the ones we got to watch in LaFleur, Scott, Logan County around 4 or 5 o'clock. That's where your energy is going to be greatest. And you can definitely see the spin. You see that? That's the low pressure system that's moving in. And that's what's going to create a little bit extra environment for severe weather. And then you'll notice the upper level low swinging out. And boy, the graph and the NAM both showing the potential for a little bit of a wintry mix early Saturday morning. I don't have it in the 7-day yet. There's a lot of uncertainty. The NAM was showing actually quite a bit of precipitation that was falling as winter variety. Watch this. So there's the graph. I'll show you the NAM 3-kilometer, which is, well, let's just say a little nuts. But let's see what it's got. So it's got those storms to the north, and then they die out, which makes sense because we don't have the ingredients as much. There's some storms coming in the early morning hours. Nothing really to write home about. It breaks apart in the early morning or late morning hours. Then here comes the next wave. So, but it just barely shows as anything. And I'm like, yeah, right. I don't know if I buy that. Now watch what happens when the cold air starts wrapping around. This shows actually quite a bit of snow accumulation. Of course, it has to. Yeah, typical NAM.
Hey, it wasn't too far off on those last two systems. It wasn't painfully
No,
off,
it
but
really wasn't. But
but
I
at
will
least one of
say
the
this:
tracks.
I'm just cautious about this, just because I think that system, the wishy-washy nature of the storm activity tomorrow, leads me to believe there's less confidence with what's happening Saturday morning. So here's a look at the NAM. Yeah, so this is the NAM 20 kilometer. You can see the resolution's a lot less, and that barely shows any type of rain on Saturday. So it's all about mesoscale forecasting, which is so difficult. Here's a look at the GFS. Let's see what it shows. So far, we haven't seen anything that's had any consistency at all, except for maybe not as much during the late morning hours, which means we'll be warmer on Friday afternoon. Instead of low 60s, we'll be in the upper 60s, which means all the storm chances will be a lot greater. And there it shows those rain chances kind of lingering, and then that's it. So that's almost such bad resolution, it's not even good to look at. Here is the European. I have looked at the meso analysis, but hold on. I'm just going to take a look at the Future Track European model. There you see some mid 50s. There you see the rain and storms. And so we know rain is coming. We just don't know how severe it's going to be. All right. So that's that. Let's take a look at some meso analysis on the Storm Prediction Center. Then we're going to look at some paintball too. I'm just going to load up one window. We'll take it and run with it. And then you guys can see what we're looking at here. All right. So here we go. So here's the storm prediction. I'm going to take my camera off the screen too. We're just going to show this full, so you get a good view of everything that's happening. So there we go. All right, going back to the Storm Prediction Center, we're going to first of all go to meso analysis. So we'll go forecast tools. First of all, the thing I like to do is look at the comp map. What's going on with this comp map? Like, what in the world? Why are there storms in southeast Kansas? A lot of cloud cover in the river valley, but not forming into storms yet. Well, let's look at the lift. So there's nothing over northwest Arkansas. There's a void of lift. There's energy that's swung into southeast Kansas, which fired up those supercells. There's more energy that's lifting northeastward. The trough is slow moving because it's a positive tilt, which is another reason why models struggle. But this little vorticity maximum right here is going to be lifting northeastward. That should develop storms in the river valley. If we look at the rising motion, there's definitely a lot of it. And that's why the radar is pretty active farther west and starting to get a little more active farther south as well. Definitely a cloudy, rainy evening in Lafleur and Scott County, but it's just rain. It's not thunderstorm activity. If we look at the helicity and shear, you can definitely see there's enough upper level wind support for storms. Here's the Cape. The surface-based Cape is nosing eastward along that warm front, barely into northwest Arkansas, but so far we are totally capped, so we don't have any storms. If we look at the dew points, there is that little moisture tongue, and that's where that storm rode that moisture tongue, that little boundary. Let's look at moisture convergence. So there is some moisture convergence along the warm front. Looks like that warm front might have lifted all the way north of northwest Arkansas. And if we look at the lapse rates, this is why the storms are more intense, because this is meaning the temperatures are cooling faster aloft than they are over us. And so we don't have a whole lot of instability. Finally, the jet stream. There's definitely a good nose of the jet that's coming in. Right now, though, the left exit region, which you can read about by going to our weather blog and learning about jet streams that Peyton Langford did, is going to be over southeast Kansas. So eventually, as that system translates eastward, the upper left, basically the upper left or the left exit region is going to be in the jet quadrant for us. which will cause a lot of rising motion. Okay, so back to mesoanalysis graphics. So we'll look at this, and we'll look at, first of all, some surface-based CAPE. Doesn't really have it over Northwest Arkansas. Over time, doesn't even really develop. So I think we're going to see a change to this severe weather outlook. I wouldn't be surprised if the marginal risk gets cropped out, to be honest with you. Supercell composite, it's there, but then it's gone. We'll look at let's look at the SIGTOR parameter. So that doesn't show up. No. Effective layer, let's see if that changes over time. Nope, it doesn't. The reason is because we're going to cool a loft, so that's going to remove our surface-based instability. So really not a whole lot to see deep moisture convection. We do have that, so maybe we'll get some thunderstorms. And then finally, we'll look at, let's look at mostly unstable, because we do have a little bit of instability over us, just not a whole lot. So MU CAPE showing up, but we are definitely capped. So we have a strong cap over us. Okay, now let's go back to see if we can get some sounding climatology. Oh man, we're running out here of time.
Well, and I'll say this real quick when it
Yeah.
comes to the overall
Like
severe
that is
weather chances. and all that,
garbage. Yeah.
It all depends on how it comes through or when and all that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the timing is key. That's the most important point. And timing is the most difficult to determine. So real quick, before we go back to, and I've got to get going here real soon, but I want to show you pivotal weather because this is just a joke here. Basically all the all the different models and stuff. So stand by here. It doesn't matter what high resolution model you look at. South Central, go into here, on a forecast loop, even though it's not my favorite. All right. And we'll bring that back up for you. All right. So this is pivotal weather, some different models that we can show. Here's the timing of this. So it shows, that's showing storms everywhere. Well, here, let me get to our time. This is our time right now, about 7 o'clock. Nope, wrong. Southeast Oklahoma doesn't have all that stuff. And then that comes in during the early morning hours, and then it's gone. And then Friday, look at Friday. Oh, it actually does have a supercell now coming through the river valley at about 7 o'clock at night. So there's one possibility. And we go to a different model, and we'll get a totally different solution. So there's some storms right there that aren't happening. There's more storms. Look, it doesn't show barely any rain overnight tonight. Then it doesn't show anything tomorrow. Then it shows storms farther south. So there is a signal that storm activity will be blossoming tomorrow afternoon. That's why we have it in the forecast. But as far as like everything changing, yeah, not really. We'll go back to the risk, and then I've got to go because we got wow, we're starting up real soon here. We're starting up in 1 minute, guys. Ah, there it is. New risk. Trashed. Gone. Yep. Just like what I said. Yep. There's the new risk.
Yeah, I think that's slight near the Oklahoma City.
And there it is.
Oklahoma.
Risk is gone. So except for northern sections of the weather coverage area in southwest Missouri. I got to run, guys. Got to go. See you. Bye.